So, as we mentioned, scores of ANC members arriving in a motorcade, some on foot, at ANC KwaZulu-Natal offices to demand the immediate release of the former president, Jacob Zuma. Some say there was secrecy over Nkandla this morning when the former president returned home to attend the burial of his late younger brother, Michael, who died almost 2 weeks ago. Zuma was returning to his Nkandla home for the first time since he was jailed for 15 months at Estcourt Correctional Centre for contempt of the Court on July the 8th. We're joined now by Kwazi Mshengu, who is a member of the ANC's Provincial Working Committee in KwaZulu-Natal. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. What can you tell us on this, the latest? Have you received a memorandum?
Good evening, Tsepiso, and good evening to the viewers. Yes, indeed. During the course of the day, on behalf of the African National Congress in the province, as mandated by the provincial secretary, I met with the comrades who were coming from different branches of eThekwini to submit the memorandum to the provincial office. There are two main issues that are contained in the memorandum that they submitted. The first one is a call for the immediate release of President Zuma, because the leadership of those who were coming to submit the memorandum made it clear that they felt that the sentence of incarceration was too harsh, and they believe that the ANC leadership can do something in order to see the immediate release of President Zuma. The second issue was around the killings that have happened at Phoenix, Chatsworth, and in the northern area of Pietermaritzburg, where members of the ANC were also calling for justice of the victims of the senseless killings that we have seen during the past period.
All right, let me just clarify on the first, and that is either your understanding or did you get clarity on this? Is it just around the period of incarceration or the principle that he is incarcerated at all that they object to?
Obviously, they object to both. They do feel that the judges overstepped their mark in terms of imposing the sentence of incarceration for a civil breach, which ordinarily does not attract incarceration as we know it in terms of the law. So the feeling of the branches was that some of the justices at the majority judgment, in fact, of the Court placed the judges above the law and made or created what is called now in the public domain a Zuma law. Now, the branches of the ANC felt that that was a serious transgression and injustice committed by the judges who are supposed to uphold, interpret, and enforce the law. But in this case, they placed themselves above the law.
All right,
but
so when you talk about the branches of the ANC, did you receive a memorandum that was representative of all branches of the ANC that are in concurrence with what you've just said? And I'd like to know what the provincial body feels itself. Is it in agreement with this?
Well, it's not all branches. It was certain branches from eThekwini region. Obviously, I cannot say that they were mandated to represent all branches of KwaZulu-Natal, of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. So it was branches from eThekwini region. The second part, indeed, the Provincial Executive Committee met just after the incarceration of President Zuma and reflected on this matter. And it was of the view that in spite of all the things that have happened, some of them which we felt were weaknesses on the part of President Zuma, but we also shared the view that incarceration was too harsh a sentence, but also we shared the view that we should be able to separate the rule of law and the conduct of certain judges who seem to be placing themselves above the law. Right. And then the PEC mandated the chair and the secretary to lead discussion, including engaging with President Zuma himself and the family to see possible ways within the legal framework of how he can be released back home.
So that's an interesting one there, because there is a political outcome, there's a political impact, but as you say, there is the legal process. which is as a result of a legal decision. The ANC nationally has said that there must be an acknowledgement of the separation of powers. In fact, it has gone as far as saying that those who are found to have exercised ill discipline in this regard ought to be disciplined. So it would be then interesting to hear from you how the PEC would approach this. You say there is concurrence within the provincial body that he should not have been incarcerated, irrespective of what you see as faults. So how can you see yourselves facilitating his release?
Okay, let me first clarify that we're in sync in terms of the respect and superiority of the rule of law. And as we understand it, the rule of law, it's a power of laws above all else, above everyone, including the judges themselves. So that's one, there is no dispute about the respect of the rule of law. But secondly, we are of the view that when we criticize some decisions of the judges and some behavior from certain members of the judiciary, that cannot amount into us attacking the independence of the judiciary. We have had even members of the judiciary at times making political statements, attacking the executive or even the legislature. So we believe that our system of constitutional democracy allows us to critique one another, but obviously still respecting the separation of powers. Having said that, there are legal avenues that are available, including parole. That is why I said the team that is led by the provincial chair and the secretary will be engaging with President Zuma and his family,
Mr. Mshengu,
including all...
Before we run out of time, I do apologize for cutting you. What have you decided with regards to the situation in Phoenix, and how would you categorize what is happening there?
Well, we can simply categorize it as a genocide that was as a result of racism that is still rife in those communities, because really what we have seen, it's something that we could not expect in our democratic dispensation. And as the ANC, we will be meeting over the weekend to reflect on what has happened and probably call for even a commission of inquiry as to what has happened around the issue, the area of Phoenix, Chatsworth, as well as North Bay in Pietermaritzburg. But before we even get there, we are very clear that we are calling for justice for the victims of these senseless killings. Okay. Our branches are engaged in peace talks. Our structures, including the PEC and government, are engaged in facilitating stability and peace talks among the communities of Phoenix, Chatsworth, as well as northern areas. But those peace talks should not be outside justice that must be accorded to the victims of these senseless killings.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Kwazi Mshengu is a member of the ANC Provincial Working Committee in KwaZulu-Natal, giving us the latest on that march to ANC offices by supporters of former President Jacob Zuma, who are calling for his release from jail. We're going to